Let's talk more about how these tariffs could affect a kitchen staple. And for that, we're joined by Anthony Chan, former Chief Economist at JPMorgan Chase. Anthony, a lot of people are going to be steamed if their favorite pastas get hammered to this degree. Let's talk about this a bit. Do you think this is going to go through with 107% tariff? And what will this do to consumers and to businesses? Because on the surface, going from $2 to $4 won't break people, but they're going to notice it.
Well, I think that in the United States, because so much pasta is produced domestically, people will simply switch to the American brands to minimize some of that pressure. But remember, the impact of tariffs always has to do with what is the elasticity of demand for the product? Are there substitutes? With regard to other products like coffee, not a lot of substitutes for some countries' coffee, but with regard to this pasta, there are substitutes. So the effect is not as great. Now, the specialty stores that sell this Italian pasta or the super high-end restaurants, the so-called Carboni restaurants that sell authentic pasta, they're not going to switch. They're going to continue to use it. But guess what happens? They're going to pass that cost on to some extent to the people that go to the restaurant. But when you consider the fact that these restaurants charge anywhere from $150 to $170 per person,
Yeah.
it's super high end. If they increase the price a little bit, it's not even going to be noticed.
So let's kind of back up and look a bit more about what you said at the start and then at the end. Do you think these restaurants and these fine dining entities, and even just the diner, if you will, are they going to see this impact, or do you think they're instantly going to start switching to the U.S. to save where they can?
No, I think the super high end, where the consumers expect the super high quality or a specific type of pasta that comes from Italy, they are not going to settle for the American brand, not because it's better or worse. It's just that they're accustomed to eating that sort of cuisine. So there's not going to be a lot of substitution there. But if you go to the super fast casual or the regular restaurants, and again, something like Olive Garden, they're not going to be impacted because they're mostly using American pasta, and so is your typical restaurant. But specialty restaurants that insist upon using these pasta, the imports from Italy, they're going to be hurt because, again, it's not that easy for them to pass it unless you are super high end, where the customer is less price sensitive. But still, there's going to be some impact to some extent because their price margins will shrink a little bit, and then they have to increase the price. So there was some impact, but less of an impact at the super high end. And at the low end, I think there'll be a lot of substitutions.
To me, it was also kind of fascinating that this isn't a new issue. Italy has faced anti-dumping investigations off and on for 30 years. So why are Italian pasta companies under such scrutiny from the U.S. Commerce Department right now?
Well, right now, tariffs are very important, and they are the focus of attention. So, yes, these things have gone on over the last 30 years, and to some extent, these companies have taken those investigations in stride and paid fines and things like that. But now, the administration in Washington is a lot more serious. So if they find something, they're going to pounce. This is not something similar to what has been going on over the last 30 years, where they basically can compromise. Here, if they find that somehow there's been something going astray, they're going to impose the tariffs. And as you can see, it's not a 10% tariff. These pasta manufacturers in Italy were already really buckling up to be able to face 15% tariffs that we imposed on Europe. But now an additional 92% tariff on top of the 15%, hence that's how you get the 107%. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge for some of those companies, which will not be able to export as much pasta as they've been exporting to the United States.
Now, you talked earlier.
Right now, go ahead.
You talked earlier about coffee, obviously being something that you can't just get anywhere in the U.S. Do you think other food entities, other food groups are going to face this kind of tariff through the Trump administration? Do you see this going on and getting to the point where U.S. farmers were, where they're saying, look, we can't make money the way we are now. So where does it end, I guess?
Well, I think they're going to continue to look for products, especially those that have substitutes, because to the extent that some of the pasta or some of the products flow through, you'll be able to collect those tax revenues. What the administration probably will avoid is to try to tariff products that have no substitutes in the United States, because then a good lion's share of those tariffs will be passed on to the consumer. And as you've seen, whenever they think that the tariffs are going to be flowing to the consumer to a large extent, they're not going to want to have those tariffs. That's why many of those tariffs were reduced. In fact, we're going to probably just continue to focus on those products that you can collect tariff revenues, because there are some substitutes. And so those customers or those groups that really want those products, they'll have to pay a little extra.